Good evening and welcome to Music Relish Podcast, July 10th, 2022, with Lou Colicchio, Perry Dedovich, and Mark Smith as your hosts. Tonight we're going to talk about some albums, some recording studios, and maybe just a fun pop quiz or two, and just have some fun, relax, and enjoy the show. Yeah, man. It's going to be good. It's going to be fun. Take it on down.
How you doing, guys?
Doing good. Doing good.
Doing good. Thanks. So what's happening tonight?
Well, we got a bunch of, maybe some holdover stuff from last week, some new stuff. Mark's got something on his mind. Favorite artist. You mentioned you want to talk about a recording studio. I want to mention a little fun quiz and a producer and a new drummer find. Someone I don't know if a lot of people know his name unless you're a true geek like us. But, this guy's got a pretty cool resume, and I have a parallel to another drummer with him in mind. But that's pretty much it. Is that coffee in that cup?
Okay, so I did listen to Oyster Cult's first record.
I don't hear a ding on a glass. Mark, what's going on? Wait, hold on a second.
Oyster Cult. There it is.
We just can't help it.
I listened to their first record, Lou, and
yeah,
I gotta say it was 1972, right? I mean, they recorded in 71, released it in 72, and it sounded like 1972. But I gotta tell you, this drummer guy, he's good.
Yeah, he is.
He's good.
He's good.
What's his name?
His name is Albert Bouchard. He was also one of the main songwriters. He sang some lead vocals too. But yeah, very, very talented guy. He was, at one point, someone called him the Tony Williams of rock and roll at that point. He had a pretty jazzy style. He was, he knew how to work that kit, but he could play. He still can. But, you listen to the whole album. The eponymous thing is
I listened to the whole album, all 16 songs.
How would you call it? Good, very good.
No, all
okay.
14 songs.
14 songs, okay.
Yeah. Well, I wrote down, kind of a little review of every song because, on some of the songs, like the first song, and by the way, now I know why Mark keeps saying to me, "You're as beautiful as a foot." Right? Because now I know.
Yeah.
I never knew what that was about, but
that song title. Oh, so you probably were like, "What the hell is Mark saying?"
Now I said, "What the?" And I was like, "What the hell is he talking about?"
The only thing I can add to that is, Perry, don't cut your tongue on the bloody tamale. It tasted just like a Guernsey cow.
There's some wacky lyrics in there. What are they talking about?
The lyrics weren't mostly written by them. I think they used a lot of outside people, but like Sandy Pearlman, Murray Krugman, Patti Smith, and whomever, and the one rock critic, I can't think of his name now, but yeah.
Well, anyway, the first song was like
dying to hear what you think.
Transmission and Sears. What's the name of that song?
Transmaniacon.
Transmaniacon. And I like the way the guitars play off each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And also I didn't really hear a lot of keyboards. The keyboards are very, very light until like a couple of songs later on in the record. I mean, they were there, but they weren't, these outlandish, loud keyboards.
Right. Now, the guy that played keyboards also played guitar. That's Alan Lanier, who was Patti Smith's boyfriend at the time they made Horses, which is why he's on that record. Really? Yeah, and that led to her doing some collaborations with them lyrically.
So they had, but I thought it was Buck Dharma.
Yeah. And
then I thought Eric Bloom was a guitar player also.
Eric Bloom plays guitar. So they had, and Albert Bouchard plays guitars on some songs too. It's, in the studio, anything goes. McCartney played a lot of guitar. You wouldn't think it was him. But, I when I saw them live, Alan Lanier played maybe 60-40 keyboard guitar, I think, if I remember correctly, But
whoever played guitar on that first song, Transmaniacon, is really good.
Buck Dharma is the lead guitarist, so all the solos are him. But a lot of those riffs could be Albert, could be Alan, or it could be Eric Bloom too. When you see him live, Eric Bloom plays. He doesn't really known as much of a guitar player in that band, but he's in there a lot, and he writes as well. But,
and there was another song called. What's the second song called? Something about I'm a lamb, I'm not a lamb, or something.
I'm on the lamb, but I ain't no sheep.
Yeah, something like
down,
that.
Down. Now that song actually, they got a rewrite on the second album. The song "The Red and the Black" on the second album is a rewrite of that song from the first album.
And who did background vocals? Didn't they have some guest background vocalists
on the first record? I don't know. I don't know.
I think they did. I don't know who it is, but there were some girls singing on there. I think.
Okay.
One of those songs. Yeah.
They used a lot of like a New York talent. Ganya Ravan, maybe. I don't know if Patti Smith is on the first album, but it could be girlfriends' wives. I know Buck Dharma sang with his wife sometimes. But I'm gonna find that out because I forgot. It's been a long time since I looked up the history of that album. What comes after "I'm on the Land but Ain't No Sheep"? Then
they had like a slow number. It was called.
Then came the last days of May.
Then came the last days of May.
And that's like a slow. I don't know. It was like a slow blues number, maybe.
Very bluesy. That's a Buck Dharma lead vocal. So he wrote and sang that one. It's about a drug deal gone awry.
Some friends of theirs died, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And some of these, like there's another song called Stairway.
Stairway to the Stars?
Stairway to the Stars. And what I did was...
Perry? Philocinium covered, then came The Last Days of May.
Really?
We did Transmaniacon, then came The Last Days of May, maybe some other things. It's been 40 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So,
and when I wrote down, like the drummer, I put exclamation point because the drums are really good. Really good in some of these songs. So I know what you've been talking about with this guy all those years.
Yeah. A good influence. Yeah. And a singer, too.
Yeah. And there's so many songs on there, but there was one song that was almost a country song.
Redeemed.
You know the one I mean.
It's called Redeemed.
I can't think of the name of it.
It's called Redeemed. Driven by a song redeemed upon the earth 40. It's got almost has a country.
In fact, I wrote it here, redeemed, and I just wrote country song in parentheses. It's a country song.
It's very country. I mentioned when we talked about it last week when you were dissing them. By the way, they're not just for 12-year-olds, Barry. They didn't write a song called "Lick It Up." But it's a diverse album. That song in particular, that's one of my favorites. It mentions Christmas Day on it. Up on the North 40, I'm sure it was Christmas Day.
And there's another song called "Screams." Am I reading my own handwriting right?
Yep. "Screams in the Night," sung by Joe Bouchard, the bass player, brother of Albert.
And this one,
you have Albert Bouchard in a can?
The interesting one with the swirly guitars on it, right?
With that song "Screams."
I think it had like swirly guitar playing. Yeah, that was really interesting. Yeah.
And that's got some eerie earthly keyboard on there. There's a breaker. He does some organ flourishes. If it's an organ, I'm sure it is.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. I found it to be a very interesting record for a record I've never heard before. Right. Ever. Yep. Never heard one song from this record until the other day.
Now, you forgot a song, or there's a song that you might not have mentioned, or...
Oh, there's a lot of them that
the one song was the first single from the record, as sung by Albert Bouchard. "Cities on Flame" with rock and roll.
Facts about sneakers.
That's a bonus cut. That's a cut that didn't make the actual release.
Really?
Yeah.
The bonus cuts were when they were Soft White Underbelly. They're from 1969. Donovan's Monkey, What is Quicksand, A Fact About Sneakers, and Betty Lou's Got a New Pair of Shoes. Sorry, Lou. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. "Cities on Flame" with rock and roll was the single from the album. Not a hit by any means.
Good song though.
Yeah, it's a good song. Philocinium played that as well. That was my vocal feature in Philocinium.
And then they had another song about quicksand.
What is quicksand?
What's with quicksand or something?
What is quicksand?
That's another bonus cut.
Yeah, that's the Soft White Underbelly session.
Okay, that's why there were 14 of them. I heard. So originally there were probably only about 10 of them. Right?
About 10, probably. Yeah. And in fact, "Redeemed" was the last song on the record. On the actual Columbia, they were on Columbia too. That was the last song on the record. I guess
and there was an interesting song called "Beautiful as a Foot." Once again. And what I noticed is about how the cymbals sounded on the drum kit. They were really good. They were really nice. Yeah, the cymbals on that. Yeah,
they used some phasing on the cymbals. Even in
maybe
latter albums,
maybe that's what it was.
There's some phasing on Agents of Fortune. I think it was using some kind of delay on the hi hat. I hear like a swirly thing. The producer was Sandy Pearlman, lyricist, and produced other people. And I'm going to get back to him in the my little rock and roll pop quiz. Sandy Pearlman.
I got to tell you,
because all roads lead to Blue Oyster friggin' Cult. It's true.
Right, but I got to tell you, overall, I didn't think it was that good of a production. Like, I'm looking forward to hearing the Martin Birch productions. Yeah. I didn't think it was
very, very different.
You know what? It sounded just like any old Kiss record too.
Well, yeah,
poorly produced.
I don't think it's poorly produced. I think for the time it sounds.
Let me rephrase that. I mean, it's not a high production value, although they were there with those Kiss those early Kiss records. They were poorly produced.
Well, you know what it is. I think that Columbia Records, they used a staff producer who didn't record rock and roll. That was the issue with the Kiss albums too, is they weren't using rock and roll producers. These are guys that could have recorded Bob Big Band or something.
Wasn't
Kiss Bob first couple
record, which by the way I have to make a correction about later on too. I have to make two corrections, Lou, because I confused you the other week about this Marshall Crenshaw thing.
Right. You mentioned my favorite mistake or something.
I was.
All right, Fonzie, come on.
I wasn't exactly right.
The first Blue Oyster Cult record was engineered. I think it was Sandy Pearlman, who was a well-known producer. I think David Lucas was a long-time engineer, but
actually no.
It was also 1972. They were probably on mescaline.
Bill Robertson was the engineer. Murray Krugman and Sandy Pearlman were associate producers, and David Lucas was the producer and engineer. So it could have been like that. Sandy Pearlman wasn't really in control. That could have been the issue with it. Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad sound. I think I like the sound of the record. I don't know if
it's very esoteric.
It's very trippy. It's very trippy. It's almost a psychedelic recording.
Kiss of Blue Oyster Cult in those early days, the Blue Oyster Cult record sounded better.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Now, Hotter Than Hell might be the worst album ever.
Now, the second record to me has a weird production. The second record sounds like you're on acid. It has a very acidy feel. So the first record I liked, I thought it had a lot of reverb, echoey. But the second record to me sounded, my brother Anthony and I used to say, this sounds like mescaline. You shouldn't say mezcal. I drank mezcal, and anywho. But I'm glad you liked it, Perry.
I did like it. I actually enjoyed it, listening to it, and I really did listen to it. I didn't do like a bandstand, It's got a good beat, but you can't dance to it.
You didn't do sound samples? Yeah, that's a good headphone record. The third record, some people think is the best one, the Secret Treaties. It's a great record, but it's not high. It is not high production. No, I know that. They recorded like in Port Jefferson, so these aren't the biggest studios and stuff. And I think early on your budget's what it is. But by the time of the Martin Birch productions, it was clean, about as modern as I wanted to hear in the '80s, right? Because right after that, that Def Leppard snare drum after 1981 is that a snare drum? Is that 1,000 pounds of glass being dropped off the building?
Yeah.
So that was my thing about listening to that first record. I'm glad I did, and I was having fun with it all that time in the past, but I respect it.
You know what, Perry? When I asked Lou one time on Facebook, he was riffing about Oyster Cult, and I said, always wanted to get into him. Where do I get started? And Lou said, start with the first album. It is a good introduction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's always peaks and valleys. I think they're pretty consistent though. Even after Don't Fear the Reaper was the big hit, the pressure's on to make singles. So the albums that follow that, Spectres with Godzilla, that's a great album.
Now, the album after that. When was Don't Fear the Reaper?
76. And then 78.
So that was really only 5 years into their 4 or 5 years into their career before they had that smash hit, right?
Yeah, an all-time classic. That was their fourth album, Agents of Fortune. Now that was a big lead.
The album with that one, right?
Oh, they blew up, but then they had to live up to it. And apparently, within the band history, they all wanted, Buck Dorman made a shit ton of money off Don't Fear the Reaper. That, if you didn't write it, you got your royalty for performing, but that publishing, that was him. So they all wanted to hit singles after that.
Right?
Yeah. So that's divide and conquer, or just intra-band internecine warfare, where you're kind of edging each other out. But And of course, he landed the other big top 40 hit. But years later, I mean, between Don't Fear the Reaper is 76 and Burn a Few is 81. So you get a nice little span of time where they tried to do that. And they wrote some great songs. They're Tom Wehrman, who produced Cheap Trick, he produced Mirrors, the album of theirs in 1979. Mm-hmm. But, you know, it's a very slick record. There's some great songs on it, but he was trying to get them to be pop hits at that point. And Eric Bloom, the lead singer, he tried to push them to the side because he wanted more Buck Dharma songs, because he figured, you know, if they could duplicate the success of Don't Fear the Reaper and Burn, or not even Burn a Few hadn't come out yet. If they duplicate the success of Don't Fear the Reaper, it'd bring the band's status up with the record company. And it is a business, right?
Yeah.
So 76 was Don't Fear the Reaper, and 81 was the other one, Burning for You.
Yeah.
Was that span of time in there? That was like a 5-year.
Yeah.
5-year gap.
But at the same time, they
from the same record.
No. If you listen, two very different. If you listen to the production on Don't Fear the Reaper, and then when you like you listen to Fire of Unorigin and Cultosaurus, Martin Birch records, you notice that it's completely different. But listen to Fire of Unorigin. Do the bookends because of the original lineup, because the one you listen to, the Blue Oyster Cult, is the first. Fire of Unorigin is the last record with the original lineup. And you'll see it, but there's some really good songs.
My next assignment is going to be learning more about Emerson, Lake and Palmer for Mark and Tom Stallone.
I got one for you tonight. Don't worry, I got an album for you to listen to tonight. That's the new segment.
All right, cool. Homework.
So what's up?
Yeah. So what else is going on, guys?
You want to take a little moment for some fun?
Yeah.
To test your acumen, your rock and roll knowledge. Okay. So I went on some sites, and there were like some of the biggest albums of their time, the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. I've been very heavy 60s lately. That's the mood. So I'm going to name an album and name the artist. I got some different genres in here too. Okay. The album is called Blue Train.
John Coltrane.
First name right, second name no.
Oh.
Classic.
Do you have a decade?
This was 60s.
Not John Coltrane.
No, it's country.
Oh, okay.
Elvis Parsley.
No? He's an icon. It's an icon. Huge.
I'm not going on my computer right now.
Willie Nelson.
You're close in genre, but wrong in name. The first name is John. Mark said John Coltrane. So the first name is right. The second name is not. The first name is John.
John Denver.
No. Icon. American legend. Mount Rushmore of Johnny Cash.
Darn.
Going around a blue train. That was my dad's. That's the only country music my dad liked. Okay. We're going to the 70s now. Marquee Moon. Like movie mark.
Oh, I know that one.
Oh, let me have it.
Television.
You got it, Perry.
Who was the producer?
Brian Eno? Eugene Levy.
I think it was Andy Johns.
Andy Johns, Glenn's brother. Yeah. I think you're right. Excellent. All right. This is the 80s. This is the 80s. Good band. Influential band. Zen Arcade. Album title. Zen Arcade.
Oh, I've heard that so many times.
I hope you have.
I'm not going to my computer.
No cheating. One of the guys went on to equal success. The other man in the band died a couple years ago.
I think it's Husker Du.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Sorry.
Right. MTV.
Nice. I want my. Here's one. The album's called Sound Effects. AFF.
What was that last one?
Zen Arcade was Husker Du.
Oh, yeah, of course. Okay. I should have known that.
This is also from. I think this is from the 80s. No cheating, man. This is not an open book test. Okay. Sound Effects. AFFECTS. Affect. Sound Effect. You guys like the guy, the songwriter in this band. You guys are big fans of this guy. Huge fan. Very well respected. What's that?
1980s.
1980s. He's more lumped in with the new wavy, not new romantic, but English pop. They're English. This band was English.
Not Brian Ferry.
No, but you're close.
English beat.
No, you're close. You guys are in that same genre, that same.
And I've been listening to a lot of that genre lately.
Same genre.
The songwriter you guys really, really like. Mark, you talk about him a lot.
Style Council?
Oh, well, the Jam.
The Jam. Okay.
Oh my God! How could I not get that one?
OMG.
All right, moving forward. This is one. This is a little throwaway. Astral Weeks. It's for the people out there. You.
We know that one. Band the Man.
Band the Man. Okay. Here's one from I think it's late 70s, maybe 80. Armed Forces.
Elvis.
Oh, which one?
The real Elvis Costello.
All right. This is the 70s. Selling England by the Pound.
Genesis.
I
jumping on that one.
All right.
Now that's a really good record too.
It is very good. Yeah.
That's a good sounding record.
Yeah, good production. David Henschel.
Yeah. Did a bunch of Genesis
the first time I ever heard that record, I was in Westwood, New Jersey, at the record store there called. What's the record store there called?
Music Merchant.
Music Merchant, and the proprietor John was playing that song on the LP, and he had a good stereo system there. And I'm like, what is that? That sounds great. He's like, that's Genesis selling England by the pound, and it really sounded good.
Yeah. Very, very warm, lush production, great stuff.
Yeah.
So let's move into the modern era. This is the 90s. Album title, Super Unknown.
Soundgarden.
Okay.
Really?
Yep. This one's from the 70s. The album is called Took Us. Barry, this is yours. Come on.
Emerson, Smith, and Calicchio.
You got it. Yeah. Emerson Lake. That's an inside joke. Emerson, Lake, and Palmer. Tarkus.
Emerson, Smith, and Spallone.
Emerson, Smith, and Spallone.
This one is for, the album is called Beauty and the Beat, 80s. Beauty and the Beat.
The Go-Go's.
The Go-Go's, yes.
This is a great record. Record.
Yeah.
This is one of the greatest pop records.
Wow.
Jack's favorite band from Milk Crates.
Yeah. Praise from Seeger.
Hey, he really went to bat for them. And in fact, I was listening to the show one time and Gina Shock called in.
Really?
Right.
The drummer called in to thank Jack, and she said, "Scott, fuck you."
That's funny. You never know who's listening.
Yeah, Jack Calabrese really, really went to bat for them, and she appreciated it absolutely.
Nice.
But it's funny. She told Scott, "Fuck you," but of course, took it all in stride. You know that.
Okay, this one is from the 80s, 1980s. The album is called Closer. You guys were talking about this band last week. About being depressed. Perry said if you want to get close. Perry said if you want to get depressed, listen to this band.
Mode. It was the who were they? Ian Curtis is the singer, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Rhymes with juvenile delinquent. It has the same initials as juvenile delinquent.
I'm leaving it for Perry.
You got 3 seconds. Joy Division.
That's a Joy Division.
Oh my God,
we're failing this test horribly.
You guys are doing pretty bad, actually. 1980s, Disintegration is the album title. Disintegration.
Yes.
Benatar.
No. English.
I have it too.
English pop new wave. English. Wild hair guy. Weird makeup. Spread all over his face like the Joker.
The Smiths.
Thomas Dolby.
You're close. You're
close.
That
was Morrissey. Yeah.
You're close. I know what you're thinking, Perry. It's not the band.
I can't think of the other name. The guy's name was Robert Smith, I think, right?
Yes. So the band, Robert Smith was The Cure. Okay.
The Cure.
All right. Let's see. This one, all right. Let It Be, not the Beatles. Let It Be, not the Beatles.
The Replacements.
Yeah.
The Replacements. Okay.
I'm sucking.
1980s, Dead Letter Office.
Mark?
I'm really off tonight. I know the... Go for it, Perry.
R.E.M.
R.E.M.
Wait, I got to pour more wine to get a better thing.
The Royal Scam. I'm sorry. The Royal Scam.
The Dan. Steely Dan.
Steely Dan.
Really?
Yep. Give Him Enough Rope.
The Clash.
Clash, second album. At the Fillmore East.
Second album slump, by the way.
Yeah. And wait. By the way, second album produced by Sandy Pearlman from Oyster Cult. He produced the second Clash album. Yeah.
Sandy Pearlman produced the Clash's second album.
Yeah. Yes, he did.
With Tommy Gunn. Tommy
Yeah.
Gunn.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, very cool.
All right. So this one at the Fillmore East.
Well, it could be the Almonds. It could be a Humble Pie.
It's the Almonds.
Okay. Oh, that's Rockin' the Fillmore is the Humble Pie. Yeah.
This one from the 60s is this was the only American band that was not affected by the British invasion. So the album is called Fifth Dimension. It's got one of my favorite songs by my favorite songwriter on this. Classic American band. Big, huge.
Called Fifth Dimension?
Fifth Dimension, yeah. It was the last album that this particular songwriter, who was a founding member, was on. He quit.
Is this, what decade is it?
1960s. Mid-60s. 66. They're big. Big American.
That album title.
Big American band. They did it. They did it. What's that?
The Byrds.
It's the Byrds, yeah.
That was a guess because I knew you were probably talking about Gene Clark.
Yeah, well, yeah. Okay, well, good deduction. Good detective work there. Yeah, that has 8 Miles High on it.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Spaceman.
Hey, Mr. Spaceman.
Yeah. Kind of a prelude to their country period. Okay, this was the 1970s. The album is called Homecoming. Big record. All their albums up to a point began with the letter H.
God bless America.
Wait.
Yes.
What was that? What was that hint? What was that hint you just laid?
Perry got us. I think the first 5 records all began with the letter H. Homecoming, Holiday, Harbor.
Yeah, what was the
Hostility,
deal with
Hatred. No.
Yeah.
Harvest was Neil Young.
That was Neil Young.
Yeah, the band was America, but I don't know why they chose the letter H.
Yeah, what was it with the H? And
So they ate a lot of garlic, and they like to say the album title.
H. Okay, this album is called 1970s. Big, huge. We talked about it recently. The album is called Horses.
Patti Smith.
Not that Scandal woman either. All right. Couple more here. This is 1960s. The album is called Modern Sounds in Country and Western Music. There was 2 volumes. There's a volume 2 of this. African American artists.
I don't know, man.
I was just listening to it on Spotify.
All right.
You're killing me, Lou. You're killing me.
You're
not getting any of this. Oh.
African American artist. He's an icon as well.
Now, what's the name of the record again?
There were 2. It was Modern Sounds in Country and Western Music, and then there was a Modern Sounds in Country and Western Music, Volume 2.
Is it Charlie Pride?
No, but he's a piano player. Was a piano player.
Ray Charles.
Ray Charles.
Yeah.
One of the top-selling records of the 60s, both of them. Yeah. All right, that was cool. Let's see here. The album title was called Stand.
The album was called Stand?
Yeah, with an exclamation period after.
Not the band Stained?
No, right. It's the name of a song, too. 70s. Sly and the Family Stone. Yeah. Okay, so how about this one? We're Only in It for the Money. 60s. Underground.
Mothers of Invention.
Mark. Dang. Yeah. All right, 60s. John Wesley Harding.
Perry.
Bobby Dylan.
What's the matter, hard on? Don't you want to take your medicine? This one's 60s. Music from Big Pink. The band. I'm going to say that one. Yeah, that was self-serving. Here's one. Sweetheart of the Rodeo.
The Byrds.
For the kids out there, the Byrds.
Mark Smith got it. Yep.
Perry, I should have given it to you. You got me into that album.
No.
Okay, 2 more. The Piper at the Gates of Dawn.
Pink Floyd.
60s. And this one, too. Last one. Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud.
Jimmy Brown.
Your buddy, Jimmy Brown. All right. You guys were pretty bad.
That was good. We sucked. We just sucked like crazy.
And I don't think they were. Well, that's okay. There were some obscurities in there. It's weird how when you see the band's name, you see the album title, you go, okay, sure. It's like any other association, and you're like, no.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to see it written, or for some reason or something.
Absolutely.
Mark, what did you want to talk about?
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? I just forgot this week. I was just not forgot. I was listening. I want to mention Alan Parsons Project because I've been listening to him a lot. I think it's a band worth just mentioning because they're very interesting. They came about in the mid-'70s between dinosaur rock and new wave. Kind of like Steely Dan, they didn't tour, they didn't play live, but unlike Steely Dan, they always had different musicians. The two guys that headed that group were just behind the mixing console, maybe playing keyboards. So I've been listening to a lot of them, and they were a band that for years I didn't like because they were always being pushed on me as being prog, and I didn't consider them prog in a snobby sense, but they are. So just a little background really quick. Alan Parsons Project is Alan Parsons, who was the assistant engineer on Abbey Road and the White Album. And he was a engineer. He produced the debut album by Pilot, remember Magic? He mixed the debut album by Ambrosia, produced their second album. Go ahead.
Pilot. I had that 45.
Oh, whoa. Yeah, their whole debut album, Alan Parsons. He engineered that. He produced it. Yeah. I got it. One thing I get wrong: he mixed some albums, he produced some albums, and he engineered some albums.
Right.
There's a big difference there, But we all know Alan Parsons' big thing is Dark Side of the Moon. That was his. Yep. That's what
he was an engineer on that, right?
That's his bone of contention, also.
Yep. He didn't get a penny out of it. Yep. But after he did Dark Side of the Moon, he was hanging out at Abbey Road Studios, and he met Eric Wolfson. Now, a little thing about Eric Wolfson, a lot of people don't, if you don't know Alan Parsons, you don't know much about Eric Wolfson, but he's from Glasgow. And he came to London in 1963, signed with Andrew Oldham to be a songwriter. And he wrote songs for Marianne Faithfull, The Tremolos, Marmalade, and Peter Noon.
Andrew Loog Oldham, he was the Stones manager, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Or producer?
Yeah. And he signed with Andrew when he was the Stones manager. So he was doing his thing in the 60s. He was trying to get out, trying to be a songwriter. He actually issued a single in 1971 under the name of Eric Elder. But then he decided to get into managing people. So he signed two people. His first two signings were artist management signings. First one was Carl Douglas, who did, do you know the song he did? Yep, that was Eric Wolfson. Guy had a huge worldwide hit. His second signing was Alan Parsons. He signed Alan Parsons.
What did Carl Wilson do? Or Carl Douglas?
Everybody was kung fu fighting.
Kung fu fighting, okay.
Ooh. Second signing was Alan Parsons. He actually signed him. He was his manager, as he kind of guided him through all his engineering and producing. But the two met at Abbey Road Studios, and they got to talking. And Eric Wolfson had been trying to do an album based on Edgar Allan Poe stories for a while. So they decided to do it, and they chose the moniker Alan Parsons Project. They put out that first album, and it did better than they thought it would do. So they got signed. The first album was on EMI. Then they got signed to, I can't remember. Arista. I think it's Arista. Yep.
Songs on that debut album that I might have heard on the radio?
No, not at all. It's a fabulous album. It's very English. Orson Welles recorded some narration for it, but he sent the tapes too late because the album got pressed already. So they pressed the album. But then for the reissue years later, Alan Parsons remixed the whole thing and put his narration on it.
What year did that come out?
75.
75.
75, yeah.
Oh, that's great.
And it's a, I almost want to say that's the album you all should listen to, but it's not going to be the album you listen to. But it's very artsy, very not dark. It's a lot of people said that it didn't scare them the way they thought it would be a scary album. No, it wasn't. Edgar Allan Poe was a poet. But anyway, after that first...
They were a studio band, excuse me. How much time did they actually spend in the studio? Like, did they spend 6 months doing the first record or anything like that? Or
I'm not sure of the timeline, but I'll tell you, Alan would spend as much time, just like Steely Dan, as needed. On the first album, On some songs, he used Pilot as the band, the whole band Pilot. And on other songs, he used Ambrosia, who he was also producing at the time.
You're kidding.
Yeah, Perry, the band Ambrosia, you know the hits, right? How much I feel for you, babe. And their other one.
Yeah.
They were a prog band. I never knew that, Mark, until recently.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah,
I heard an album cut. I heard a deep cut album. Like, what is this? It was long song. And it goes, that was Ambrosia. I'm like, wow.
They had a song called "Nice, Nice, Very Nice," which is very prog. It's very laid back. Yeah. California band.
Yep.
And you could thank Alan Parsons for getting them on the scene. You know, but after they did that first album, they did an album called "I, Robot," which really exploded. I don't know if you know the song. The one hit single off is called "I Wouldn't Want to Be Like You."
Wouldn't want to be like you.
There you go. Yeah. Yep. That was a hit. That was a bonafide. "I, Robot" was 77. And I'm correcting myself. Tales, the first album was actually 76, Tales of Mystery and Imagination. So "I, Robot" comes out. It had a cover picture of a robot. It was the year Star Wars came out. Everybody was into that stuff. So I think that kind of helped it. It's a great album. Very, very good album. What I like about it is they do out and out pop. Then they'll do some almost soft rock songs. And then you get some crazy proggy thing with choirs singing. That's what I love about Alan Parsons. So a lot of people consider. Go ahead.
Were they compared to maybe 10cc at one point, or maybe kind of confused?
Yeah, probably. In fact, Alan Parsons had some. He's kind of been connected with who was those two guys that were in 10cc.
Godley and Cream.
Yeah, and Eric Wolfson too. He had kind of they helped him get his first single out as a solo artist. So, but yeah, that "I, Robot" it charted. It was big in the U.S. Oddly enough, they didn't tour, but they were still successful in the U.S. They were successful in Europe, South America. Oddly enough, South American countries that predominantly spoke Brazilian, not just Brazil, but there's a couple other areas, and Portugal. Don't understand that one, but they never toured. So that's kind of the amazing thing about them, is that they had all these fans, you know.
Well, they speak Portuguese in Brazil.
That's what I say, but there's a couple other countries with Brazilian, you know. It was just something kind of weird that I saw, is that they were popular in Brazilian-speaking countries, yeah. So they did "I, Robot." Then they had a couple more albums that they're really good, but they didn't really have big singles, but they still did well. They did Pyramid and Eve, and all these albums, they were theme albums. They had like a theme behind them. So "I, Robot" obviously was just about computers and are they going to, you know, how smart are they going to get? Pyramid was about greed. Eve was about women. Won't go in there. But in 1980, they had a big hit. They put out "Turn of a Friendly Card." And remember Games People Play? Yeah, that was on that. WNEW in the here in New York played it constantly, and that was the album that I bought first. I thought, hey, you know, that's a great album. That's about gambling, and
so yeah,
that song's about gambling, or the album?
The theme of the album, basically. Well, the second side is a whole suite, you know, about gambling, but their songs tend to follow a certain theme on each album, that's what I liked about them. Yeah.
But being as they never toured, did they ever go on like Top of the Pops or like the Jules Holland show or anything?
They did one concert with the original lineup in 1990. They were at, do you ever hear of a BBC show called A Night at the Proms? They did that. And it's a great show, because it was the rawest of the BBC shows. It was not like, there was no, you get up there, you do this. The band just played live. The Who did one of them. Motorhead did a couple. So when they did that, though, it was funny that Alan Parsons wasn't on stage. He was behind the mixing console. And Eric Wolfson was just totally off stage. The cameras never even got him. That's the kind of band they were. They got the artists that were on the earlier albums on Night of the Proms. You didn't even see Alan Parsons. I find that very unique. It's not like Steely Dan. Donald Fagen's always up there, you know. Right. But I would like to see that. I haven't seen it. But that's the only show with the original band.
Wow.
Yeah.
They also made promotional videos, even like before MTV, I think.
Yeah.
You know, some little films. So they were, as long as you had those rock and roll shows at late night and radio play too, but you know.
Yeah.
They were interesting. You'd be surprised I was surprised how many hits they had when you hear the song pop up and you're driving your car, you're like, it's another one by them.
Yeah.
They were good.
Yeah.
They were really good though. They were great sounding records. The records obviously they sound amazing. I mean, stylistically, it's not the point. If you look at it from like a producer's point of view, or they sounded really good on the radio, but it was that late '70s period. Music had a certain, it kind of slick in a way, but it was really good.
It's odd, Lou, because like the one thing I didn't like about when I think I was like 18 years old, I bought the vinyl of Turn of a Friendly Card, thinking, I'm going to love this album, and I hated the drum sound because I didn't like that it's the Don Henley drum sound. Yeah, that was what people wanted then. So I kind of like put it on the shelf. I didn't listen to it for years, and then I pulled it back out, and now I appreciate it. But after they did Turn of a Friendly Card, their big hit was Eye in the Sky, that album, because that had Eye in the Sky. It has that little instrumental called Sirius, which is what the Chicago Bulls used for years during their dynasty. That's that little,
And that's the lead into Eye in the Sky, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's what leads into it, yeah.
And I remember hearing WNEW play that. Like I was like, oh, this is cool. And that's when I really started to like them, because that's to me, it was proggy. I was just, but it also had a song called Time. I don't know if you remember that one. Time, Flowing Like a River.
I think I may have heard that one.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
That was a big one. And then they put out a few more albums. They had one more big hit with Don't Answer Me, which was on MTV. It was a really neat video. It had like a kind of cartoonish imagery. But Alan Parsons did it as somebody said to him in the studio, why don't you make the song sound like like echoey, And so, he was, so he just pushed all the echo faders up, and it comes out like a classic Phil Spector production. That's a great song, Don't Answer Me. And then they didn't have any hits after that. They put out a couple more albums, and they kind of fizzled. They kind of went their separate ways. But Alan restarted Alan Parsons' project. What he did is he started performing live years later under Eric Wolfson's blessing. And it's called the Alan Parsons Live Experience, if I'm right there. Da-da-da. Anyway, and then, he's been touring. Eric Wolfson, unfortunately, died in 2009. He did a bunch of Broadway-style plays, and he got into that. That was his big thing. So he did some stuff after that. But it's a very condensed, probably 10 years, 14 years. And they put out albums their own way. They did what they wanted to do. Mm-hmm. Alan Parsons, I know he wanted success, but he also did it his way. He's incredibly stubborn, just like Lynn Johns. I don't know if those two ever were together in the same room, but they kind of remind me of each other. I met Alan Parsons at an Audio Engineering Society convention. Cool. Most giving guy. He couldn't speak to me for long, but he gave me his attention when I asked him some questions about EQing and mastering. He is concerned with recording in this day, staying at a high quality. He does a lot to help mentor young people that want to get into it. I learned a lot from him. I have a few of his books. He still puts videos up online, some free, some pay for, but the guy is just concerned about music sounding good. And in this day and age of people recording in their bedrooms, and sometimes they sound good and sometimes it doesn't sound good, I think giving young people these little tips is keeping music sounding good. That's his goal. Yeah.
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 There's actually a genre called bedroom pop. It's been around for a while.
The Alan Parsons project is no longer. They're defunct.
Alan Parsons goes out on his own, and he does Alan Parsons project songs. So he's got kind of a steady band now. I'd like to see him, but he's actually touring right now, and he's put out Alan Parsons albums under his own name, and they're very good. If they're a little glossy at times.
Wasn't he adamant about not using well-known singers though? Those lead singers, I never heard. I don't know who they are. I've read some of the names, but I'm not sure. But I don't think they weren't well known from was it Mike and the Mechanics? The singers Mike Rutherford used were well known. Paul Carrick was well known. Paul Young was well known. I think he used relatively unknown singers.
He did. He used a lot of different singers. Early on, the record labels wanted him to use Eric Wolfson because Eric Wolfson has a very soft voice where like Time, Eye in the Sky, that's Eric Wolfson. But Alan Parsons, he wanted to use more professional singers. So like on different albums, he's had Gary Brooker from Procol Harum. He used Arthur Brown on the first album, Crazy World of Arthur Brown. But he also used... Yeah, and for a long time, he had Colin Blunstone. I don't know if you know where he's from, but he's from the Zombies.
From the Zombies.
Yeah, and he was on a bunch of albums. And there's other singers, John Miles. There were more of English pop singers. But then later on, he kind of went into just using Eric Wolfson more. And Eric Wolfson gave them some of their biggest hits. So it was good, you know? Yeah. Yeah. So some people find them boring. I don't push them on anybody, but I think that it's as successful as they were and how respected they are, I still think they're unappreciated by a lot of people.
I agree, Mark. And like we said, I thought they were good, but I thought there's something I thought dull about it. But that was just my personal, at the time, what I wanted to. Like, I like the songs, but I thought there's a certain sonic thing. But hearing
it's
them
very
downbeat.
Yeah, it's very down.
In a way, Perry. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the music that at that time was. But when I listened to them in retrospect, I heard like Sirius before On the Sky. I said, I agree. I said that made me think they were a prog band in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Except the drumming wasn't prog. The drumming was very straight ahead.
Yeah.
You know, so it wasn't complicated time signatures. At least on the songs I've heard.
It's ironic because Alan Parsons and Eric Wolfson are British, but they had that American sound on the drums, and that's probably what I didn't like about when I first heard them. But yeah, driving, and that's also ironically what I was saying is they were popular in North America, South America, Europe. Never had a top 40 hit in England. Maybe it's because of that sound they had.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you think of what was going on in England at the time. I'm not to say it's unjust, but like the 80s, you know. Was a lot of pop new wave, but maybe they were considered a little too, maybe not dinosaur, but just kind of.
Hey, when they put out the first album, prog was still big, but they probably weren't prog enough. It was kind of a
they were before synth pop.
Yeah. Then the late 70s was big, and they're still doing that pop. They had a pop sound to it.
Yeah.
And then in the 80s when they did get big because pop was big, but they weren't doing it like anybody else, you know. But you're right. What I used to not like about him is what I like about him now. I said, Eric Wolfson, what is this? Some Tony Bennett album? Like the way he sings, you know?
Definitely, like with Eye in the Sky, he's crooning. It's a crooning song.
Yeah.
Singing,
and it gets in your head. You can't get it out of your head.
It's a great melody. It's a great smooth vocal. I mean, his voice sounded great on the radio. It's a very radio-friendly voice.
But does he still produce?
Alan Parsons, he's, I think, yeah. Oh. This is for Tom. I can't think because I don't have any wine in my glass, but he did engineer, I'm holding it up, Steve Wilson's second solo album. That's for you, Tom. So yeah, he does still get behind the chair, but he engineered. He didn't produce because nobody can produce Steven Wilson. He produces his stuff. And he's really in the education side of things. He devotes a lot of time to educating young people that want to be recording engineers, and I think that's great.
In fact, I think both of you guys might have sent some videos, interviews with him on our text feed.
Yeah,
some interviews with Alan Parsons. Just talk.
Yeah,
you do. And just talking about like the quality of music and maintaining the sonic quality of it.
Right. So
sounding record.
He reissued all their albums, and in one crazy manic shopping thing, I got them all on Amazon. And now I play the CDs, and I'm like, oh, those. Even though the drums may sound like Don Henley, they're still they're just an even level. He knows how to do everything, and you turn it up. It sounds like you're watching a movie. He always wanted to be like a director, you know. He wanted to be the director of engineers, and he did it. He did a good job on it. So a little slick for people, but I love him. And Tom, he produced Steve Wilson. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I have to make a correction, Lou.
Yeah.
The other week I had said that I said, I heard a Marshall Crenshaw song called You're My Favorite Mistake.
Right.
And you said, well, it's not the same song as Sheryl Crow. But really it was You're My Favorite Waste of Time.
Oh, okay.
It was the Marshall Crenshaw song was talking about. So I lost my head. So once again, I was wrong.
You pulled a Fonzie. You jumped the shark. Marshall Crenshaw wrote a song for the Gin Blossoms.
Really?
Will I find a way? Now, Mark, is there an Alan Parsons Project album that we were supposed to listen to?
Yes, there was. And this is going to be the launch of our new segment. If you guys we could do this. Each week, let's recommend an album to the other two to listen to and come back the next week and say what they think of it. Sounds great. Sounds like shit. Whatever they want to say. So I'm going to recommend this week The Turn of a Friendly Card by Alan Parsons. I was deciding which album to pick. I almost wanted to say the first one, but let's do Turn of a Friendly Card. A lot of people consider it to be their peak. It's not Eye in the Sky, but it's an epic recording.
Okay.
So go and give it a listen, see what you think.
I'll put on the Spotify.
Spotify, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll find it on Apple.
There you go.
You have Spotify, right?
I'm an Apple guy.
I thought you had Spotify too.
I do, but I'm an Apple guy.
Hey, I got the
Apples,
Apple.
oranges,
Oh, sorry. Okay.
What's next?
Wildly unprofessional. Okay.
What's next? I have a recording studio I'd like to talk about. If you guys want to go into it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Have you ever heard of a recording studio? That's called RSM.
No.
Don't know.
It's the Rolling Stones Mobile.
Oh, yeah. Ah.
And some of the records that were recorded using this, obviously, we know that Exile on Main Street. And they recorded another one. They recorded Sticky Fingers using their mobile.
Where did they actually perform the music when they recorded mobile? Like use the theater? A chateau in the south of France?
Well, that was in France for Exile on Main Street. They just ran the cables through the building, down into the basement or whatever it was. Yep. As far as Sticky Fingers, I don't know where they recorded that, but had to be at a house or, somewhere.
I think that may have been the one that may have been partially recorded at Headley Grange, which is where Led Zeppelin recorded too.
Well, I'm going to get into that because not everyone knows. Led Zeppelin 3 and Led Zeppelin 4 were recorded using the Rolling Stones Mobile.
Didn't know that. Very cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
And at Headley Grange, most of them this is where they recorded there, but I think they go to like Olympic Studios to do the mixing and everything once they're done with the recording. But yeah, Led Zeppelin 3 and Led Zeppelin 4 were recorded at Headley Grange using the Rolling Stones Mobile.
So I guess you just rented.
You know the Deep Purple Machine Head story, right? With Smoke on the Water and all that, right? Frank Zappa and the Mothers and Deep Purple also recorded Burn using the Rolling Stones Mobile.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I think I've seen pictures of it. Now, was that a novel idea at the time? I mean, think about it. I mean, that must have made a pretty penny. That must be a high fee to rent that. I wonder if it came with engineers. Did it come with a crew?
Guess whose idea it was?
Mick.
Their piano player, Ian Stewart.
Ian? Really? Wow.
Talked them into doing this. Said it was a great idea. It was his idea. It was his brainstorm to do this.
Hope he got a piece of it because he was the guy. They wouldn't let him be a real Stone, although he was there from the beginning.
And now they apparently it had. You ever hear of these mixing consoles called Helios? They're really famous consoles. The Rolling Stones Mobile had the second Helios console ever made. Yeah.
Was that an English-made board?
Neil Young recorded Harvest using the Rolling Stones Mobile.
Oh, wow.
Did he go to England or did they ship it over to America?
No, they probably. That's a good point. I don't know. Maybe
how big was the damn thing? Yeah.
Maybe he rented a country house in the UK or something.
Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you what, Deep Purple recorded Burn in Montreux, Switzerland. So I'll check on Neil Young.
They all came down to Montreux, didn't they?
Lake Geneva shoreline.
Hey, can I add something in there, Perry? I hope I don't have.
Wait, does it say to make records with a mobile, or is it?
It's about Mark. This is what it's about, man.
So when Zeppelin were recording I believe the story is that Stones had just finished up recording, and Ian stayed on, and that's why he plays piano on Rock and Roll because he was part of the mobile truck. And he's like, they're riffing on rock and roll, and there's Ian Stewart playing the piano. He's also on
the Led Zeppelin song Rock and Roll. It's Ian Stewart on piano. Yep.
And in those sessions, was Boogie with Stu, which appeared on Physical Graffiti. So he was just hanging out.
My question.
So I guess the Rolling Stones Mobile came with Ian Stewart.
It was his brainstorm. Yeah. So Bob Marley recorded there. Iron Maiden recorded using the mobile.
Wow.
Frank Zappa. Santana, who apparently just passed out on stage or something last week, and
heat exhaustion.
So he's told to lighten up on the touring schedule, take a break,
drink some Gatorade.
Lou Reed did a record called Live in Italy using the Rolling Stones mobile. So I guess they can bring that thing anywhere.
I guess they can move it. I want to. Does it like double as a food truck or a roach coach? Can they open up one side of it and serve you like bacon and egg cheese sandwiches and stuff?
Well, The Who recorded using the Rolling Stones mobile.
Live at Leeds?
Nazareth. And Wishbone Ash.
Yep. Overlooked band.
And Motorhead also. So there's so many bands that use the Rolling Stones mobile.
I wonder if it's still around.
That's a good point. I don't know. They built it in 1968. It was built by the chief engineer technician of Olympic Studios. That was the guy who they hired to build it. Yeah.
I hope it didn't end up getting just trashed and taken apart. It should be in a museum. But I want to know something now. When the Stones recorded in France for Exile, there was no tunnel. There was no channel back then. Did they just put that thing on a ferry?
Like a barge or something?
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah, probably.
This is so cool. And then they drove it to France, and Perry, doesn't Glyn Johns talk about that in his autobiography, driving it somewhere too? He was like with the guy that was driving it somewhere. They went out.
Had a steering wheel, had an engine, wheels. It was like a big RV, I guess, right?
Man, what went on that thing? Wow. But it's funny. Through all the Stones years, all the drugs and all this, they kept a modicum of quality. Like they had the Rolling Stones mobile. It was also an investment for them. They made money off it too.
I would think.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So it was conceived by Ian Stewart, and it was built by Dick Sweetingham. He was the chief engineer at Olympic Studios. He was the guy that they contracted to build it.
He was like Scotty from Star Trek.
Helios console ever built.
I never heard of Helios. I've heard of SEC, other things.
Never. Pretty famous. Pretty famous company.
How many channels? Was it 24?
Oh, I'm sure it was like 16 tracks or something at least. Right. Maybe 8 to start, but it got upgraded it was built in '68. They upgraded it in 1973. So I'm sure in '73 it went to 16, 24 tracks,
at least
whatever.
24 track, yeah. State of the art of the time.
Yeah, but Rolling Stones mobile.
Very cool.
Many more records that I probably haven't even mentioned have been recorded using that. Yep.
Yeah. You mentioned things that we would know. Wow.
It was the first of its kind because after that we did have mobile recording studios, but yeah, they were the first to do it.
Now I got to say, I kind of piggybacked on that with single wide studios. That was kind of a very poor man's imitation of that completely.
Yeah. Well, yours.
But I produced some stuff in there.
SWS.
SWS.
Both of you guys have recorded at
studios didn't have wheels on it.
No, it wasn't meant for that.
Yeah, but we recorded there and slept there. We slept there too.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, it was fully accommodated. There was a chef.
Yeah.
I recorded an album called Traces there. I don't know if you guys have heard of Traces.
I have. Yeah, it's an EP. Yep.
Well, maybe we'll do some stuff down in this place, the Red Shed Ranch Recorders.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? We'll have to figure out what's the first song going to be recorded there, right? Maybe in October, late September.
I can do it. Actually, November, December out. You don't want to be here. No, that's holiday season. I got to think about that because kicking into holidays, I have to. Time off is limited until after. After January.
We'll work it out. But whatever we do, will be on the show. Whatever
you guys come down. I'll work. You just trash the place, and I'll just come after work and record, and go to work again.
Yeah, we'll all bring
up all night.
We'll live stream a show from the Red Shack or the Red Ranch or
Red Shed Ranch.
Yeah.
Hey Perry, Lou's got a TV. Let's throw it out the window. Yeah.
That's right. Here in beautiful Swan Nowhere, North Carolina. Swan Nowhere. And I found out that's what people call it here. I told someone, I said, I moved to Swan Nowhere. He goes, oh yeah, Swan Nowhere. Where are you from?
Yeah, guys. So what the hell else is going on?
I got an album I'd like to talk about.
Sure. Love to hear it.
Talk about.
Get that paper turned.
That's right. I take notes, man. I take notes.
Did one page of notes.
And last week when we mentioned whatever the hell we were talking about, one of our little pop quizzes, summer songs. And the Kinks came up. And we started off an extemporaneous conversation about the Kinks. Where like Mark said, we could have gotten the whole show with the Kinks. And I realized at many points in their career, they were the greatest English rock and roll band ever. Many times they can share that with Led Zeppelin and everyone else. Very unique to themselves. As a writer, no one else like him. He was a rock and roll ball sack. But I listened to the album Face to Face from 1966. It's their fourth record. It is. I've been listening to it. It's amazing. It's an amazing record. It's a departure for them. It's a departure from that power pop. Those singles. You Really Got Me. All that. Those great power pop singles. He went to that kind of pastoral type of writing, more Baroque pop, using harpsichords. There's a song on this album. This is '66, where there's a heavy Indian influence with the percussion, raised vocal. Before Sgt. Pepper, before Within You, Without You, or even Got to Hide Your Love Away had that sitar. But I mean, I think this might have predated some of that, given they recorded it in '65. It was the one I heard is on Spotify. It was a mono mix. It was a deluxe edition, all mono mixes. It sounds amazing. All coming out of the same speakers. The balance, the recording, every instrument sounds great. I mean, they were so cool. They had such energy. And I give Mick Avery some shit sometimes because there were times I mentioned like the '80s big rock era, which I love. It was just the production, But he was a great drummer on some of the stuff because he's not the drummer on all of it, as I found out. So the record, it was a kind of a disappointment for sales. Number 12 in the UK and 135 in the US, but it had that hit single "Sunny Afternoon," which is a great song. And it's the whole album is a loose concept, they said, but it's all a lot of social commentary about the working class. And even back then, some of the song titles, always in its time. It was in its time then. It's in its time now, as you see. The cost of everything going up in the middle class being what it is not anymore.
So that would be like the first album where they really started to focus on social issues, and then continued with Muswell Hillbillies, which was another one the same.
Right. Well, they continued in the album before that. I forgot the name, where they had like A Well-Respected Man, Dedicated Follower of Fashion. So those were some oddball tracks. But in my reading, it said that Sunny Afternoon on the next album, this Face to Face album, proved to the record company and the Kinks themselves that they could move into this new direction, which at that point was called the golden age of the Kinks from 66 to 71, with the beautiful Waterloo Sunset, Victoria, Lola, going into that, which is their exile period because they couldn't tour in the States. But in retrospect, it's gotten more critical acclaim. And there's a book called The 1001 Albums You Must Hear Before You Die. It's in that. I don't know what the listing is where it sits in that thing. But Sunday Afternoon was the number one hit single in the UK. So even though the album was a bit of a disappointment, that was the number one.
Yeah.
So there's some standout tracks in there. I thought if you guys listen to it. In fact, this is my album. I think you should listen to for next time. The song called Session Man. It's a great song. A Rainy Day in June. Very different song. Almost cinematic. There's timpani on it, but it's not over the top. I was totally blown away. The singing, the writing, the playing is fantastic. The reason that I started listening to this album, it reminded me again because I was driving home from work the other day. I heard a song, Underground Garage, A House in the Country. I'm like, this is freaking great garage rock. It's a Kinks, A Sunny Afternoon is on that. But once again, his writing was just spot on. But the producer of this stuff, ever hear a guy named Shel Talmy?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, he's still alive. He was born in 1937. He was a producer. He's still alive, yeah. He's also he's a pretty cool thing. He's in a high IQ association called the 999 Society. It's people who are above the 99.9 percentile. They're just really smart people, and he's in that. But he was a producer, songwriter, arranger. His track record, he produced "You Really Got Me," "All Day and All the Night," "Tired of Waiting for You," "Set Me Free," "Till the End of the Day," "Dedicated Follower," "Well Respected Man," "Sunny Afternoon," "Waterloo Sunset" by The Who. He produced "I Can't Explain," "Anyhow, Anywhere," and "Anyway, Anyhow, Anywhere," "My Generation," "Legal Matter," "The Kids Are All Right." He produced a David Bowie song when he was in a band called the Manish Boys called "I Pity the Fool." He produced Chad and Jeremy's A Summer Song. But then I realized that the drummer on some of those songs, remember this controversy whether Jimmy Page played the guitar solo on You Got Me? So I think we're pretty sure he most assuredly did not. He played rhythm guitar on any Kinks song. He did not play solos. That is Dave Davies, Perry with the Rip Cone, so that's been laid to rest. But the drummer on those songs was a guy named Bobby Graham, an English drummer named Bobby Graham, who I've discovered he's the Hal Blaine of England. He's this. Shel Talmy said he's the greatest drummer the UK ever produced, or one of the greatest drummers. There was like an English version of almost like the Wrecking Crew, and it was Hal Blaine, some guy named Big Jim Sullivan, someone named Vic Flick, and Jimmy Page. So Jimmy Page, he did a lot of sessions. These guys were the cream of the crop.
Vic Flick.
You know, tell me about him.
Famous guitar player.
Is he?
How'd
you hear about him? I mean,
he's played on hundreds of famous songs. Vic Flick.
Oh, cool. Vic Flick. Yep. Mark, you checking him out or?
I'm amazed on one thing about Shel Talmy. He's American. Like I didn't
know that.
Yeah, so all these years, I knew about Shel Talmy because I was a big Who fan, reading all the books, Shel Talmy. Yeah. And now he's born in Chicago, and he went to England in 1962, 63. And boom, he never came back. Yeah. Huh. He lives in L.A. now, though. So,
okay.
Wow.
Yeah, he's almost 90 years old now. I mean.
Yeah. So he had the ear of the British music scene. He was American.
That is so cool. Yeah. I mean, an opposite thing, So he was, well, I guess the American ears. I mean, the British loved American rock and roll. That stuff that came through the ports and Liverpool and all that.
Yeah.
But if you look up Vic Flick, you'll find out how many records the guy played on.
I'm going to definitely. Yeah. I'm wondering who Big Jim Sullivan is now. He's like a bare knuckle boxer or something. Marcus of Queensberry rules, guys. But I mean, remember Joe Brown? Did you remember the concert for George Harrison? Yeah. Joe Brown. He's like an English journeyman, great musician. He played with him. Joe Brown's daughter is I think she sang in that concert, Horse to Water. I forgot her first name. Great singer. Anyway, so he played on 13 number one singles. Dave Clark 5, Engelbert Humperdinck, Peter and Gordon, the Kinks, Tom Jones, Dusty Springfield. But so he's on the You Really Got Me. And apparently he said he played as hard as he could. He had an intro apparently for it. He screwed it up, so he just went Downtown by Petula Clark. Green Grass of Home by Tom Jones. He's on that.
Wow.
And
great song.
Yeah. Tom Jones is a great singer. Great voice. He still has it too,
Yeah.
He was on he played on Gloria and Baby Please Don't Go by Them with Van Morrison.
Wow.
I Only Want to Be With You with Dusty Springfield. I believe by a band called The Bachelors. I think they were bigger than I know about. This sounds kind of familiar. Now with the Dave Clark 5, not to be confused with the Dick Clark 5. That was a whole different band. He did Glad All Over and Bits and Pieces. All right. Perry, can I have a rim shot over here? Come on, man. Help a guy out. You don't have a snare drum over there?
Do not be asking Perry for rim shots right now. Come on.
But so that was a good. Thank you. Yeah.
Take my wife, please.
Yeah, Bobby Graham, the Hal Blaine of England. Yeah.
That's an incredibly varied. Like you really got me and Dusty Springfield. Like man, yeah, it's wild.
That's why they did the sessions. That's why these guys had the greatest careers. I mean, like I said, you really got me. That's ultimate dirty garage rock, which means these guys were slick, but they were smart. I mean, they like. Who needs to be a rock star when you can do that shit?
Yeah,
Imagine the traveling. All these guys did that. I'm at Gold Star at 3:00, and then I'm going to Sun Recorders at 5, and I've got to go home eat dinner, and that was the way to do it.
Yeah.
And then play a strip club in LA after that.
But the studio musician that really made me realize how hard they work and how crazy that life is. You remember Will Lee from David Letterman's band, the bass player?
Oh yeah.
I saw something online once, something like a diary in the day of Will Lee. And first of all, he didn't have a regular bass case. He has the soft shell case because he goes downtown, he does a session at 10 a.m., throws it on his back, gets in a cab, goes up, do whatever big thing. He'll do like 7 sessions in a day, like and he takes a taxi, Yeah. These guys work their butts off. And they're so good. Like they walk in, they play the song, They walk out, they did their thing. And this is amazing.
And he has his own Beatle cover band called the Fab Faux.
Really?
Like FAUX? Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yep.
Catching a cab in Manhattan to go like uptown or wherever you got to go for a studio. It's a hustle.
It is.
That's the benefit of reading music, though, because none of us. Do you read music at all, Mark?
All I know is every good boy deserves fudge or something is the lines. That's all I can remember. I'm a tablature guy. In the early 80s, a magazine called Guitar Player came out that made it really easy for us young kids to play guitar by having tablature, which is the 6 lines, the 6 guitar strings, and the fret number. And it kind of ruins you because I tried to learn music after that, and I can't read it. It's hard, yeah. Can you?
I've seen those, and I could never make it happen. Being dyslexic, I couldn't. I just saw a bunch of numbers. I could read the chords if if it just says G, B minor, F. I can do that.
So Perry,
is that where you play backward guitar solos? Is that where you do that?
Yeah.
So Perry, if you read the tab to Smoke on the Water instead of dan dan dan, you're going dan 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 dan. Hey, I'm there too. I'm the same way. I'm the same.
And I'm an atheist. There is no dog. So who is this drummer, Lou? This fabulous drummer.
His name was. He died in 2014 post surgery thing. His name was Bobby Graham. But I'm going to look up Vic Flick. But I think I would like both of you, if you would, if I may. I ask you to listen to the Kinks Face to Face.
I wrote it down.
Your life will change. It's just it's a great record from beginning to end. Every song is really good. You
know what, Lou? I think you already beat me this week.
Alan Parsons and the Kinks.
What's up? Alan Parsons. Yeah. What was it? The Turn of a Friendly Card.
Yeah, we're supposed to actually do 1 a week. We'll do 2 this week, and then Perry next week will hit us up with 2 to listen to. He'll get back at us.
Okay.
Now, I mean, that's funny because when you do that, when we were on Milk Crates and Turntables, Scott was talking about Maggot Brain. So I listened to it after that. I was going to talk about that instead of the Kinks, but I just felt the Kinks last week was such a buzz with it. I thought we just continue along with it. But I've heard a couple songs from it, but I listened to the album again last night in its entirety, and it is really good. There's acoustic guitars on there. I mean, on the album cuts.
That album hit me like a ton of bricks.
I can't believe
they're from Jersey, and they're from Jersey, and they're supposed to be this funk band, right? So you get funky, you got acoustic guitars. They're just really good musicians. They're just playing music, and everything's bombastic. On the table. Yeah, everything's on the table. It was before that funk thing, like in the late 70s. They got into the big stage sets and everything,
like the Ohio Players and things like that, where it was great music, but this was very low key. There's nothing over the top, but it was just, the songwriting itself and, the playing. I'm like,
there was a guy wearing a diaper. There was a guy in the band wearing a diaper on stage, right?
I think so. Parliament.
That was Parliament.
There were 2 bands. There was Funkadelic and Parliament, which was, they were kind of going synonymously with, who was the guy that ran both bands?
George Clinton.
Yeah.
George Clinton.
So I think Parliament was they were the more popular band. They did more pop type music, but I think the guy in the diaper was in Parliament.
Oh, okay.
It was really me, I'm really 80 years old.
Was that Bootsy Collins in the diaper?
And there's always that thing about who created, like Bootsy Collins said he was the first guy to slap the bass, but it was really Larry
Graham.
Larry Graham. He was really the one that was the first one to do that, like that popping thing, right?
Yeah.
I heard it was Louis Johnson from the Brothers Johnson.
Yeah, see, there's always going to be that thing.
I don't know, yeah. That was a good. Remember the Brothers Johnson? Remember them?
Yeah.
2 well-known hits. I'll be good to you. And it's the Strawberry Alarm Clock number 9. I've got the name of it. What is the name of that song?
Yeah.
When I hear Brothers Johnson, I have memories of childhood, hot summer days, the exhaust of leaded gas. I know I've said this before. Certain music just brings me back to those times.
This is your version of the hissing of summer lawns. The smell of leaded gas.
God, hearing
the fuel from the buses.
Hearing the cicada bugs in my backyard. When I listened to a Brothers Johnson album like a month ago on Spotify, and I was like transported. That soul, oh my God, yeah. I just wanted to go outside, and wasn't the same.
They weren't a big band. They weren't huge, but Louis Johnson played a lot of bass on Thriller. I think it's him on Billie Jean, things like that. Yeah.
Well, how about James Jamerson, the Motown bass player?
One finger, doing most of it with one finger.
Really?
Yeah, apparently. Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah, that's what I heard. A lot of my bass player friends said he did a lot of stuff with one finger.
And yeah, we've gone finger.
Wait. So did Geddy Lee.
Yeah.
Right.
If you watch him, he's really going. Yeah, this guy's got a strong finger.
Story about how when Marvin Gaye was doing the session for What's Going On, they couldn't find James Jamerson, so they went out and they found him at a bar somewhere, and he was pretty messed up. So they brought him back to the studio, and he played what you hear on What's Going On his back, laying on his back in the studio.
Wow.
Obliterated.
And that's what you hear when he plays on What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. Yeah. And then it's fabulous bass.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
People can't do that sober. It's just, a lot of those guys, if you read about the history of the Funk Brothers, there's a lot of tragedy in there. Benny Benjamin, he was the main drummer, Benny Benjamin. That fill, boom, kakatoon, snare. That's his fill. I do it all the time. I can't help it. Phil Collins stole that. He borrowed that from him.
He borrowed it.
I mean, it's a lick, But there's just a life. That's amazing bunch of musicians.
The thing you just said about it being drunk and being able to play. It's some musicians. It's amazing. So I saw Stevie Ray Vaughn at Montclair State College in New Jersey, and he was in the gymnasium, and the show was late. Then the lights go down. He's coming on. He starts to fall. He's coming on stage. He's got his guitar. He's stammering. Someone had to prop him up, and I'm like, oh, this show's going to suck. Immediately I said, because we've heard Eric Clapton bootlegs where he's drunk, he can't play.
Yeah.
And I was like, the show's going to be good. I was a teenager. I'm like, oh, no. The minute he started playing, he wasn't drunk. He was standing straight, and he was ripping. He was great, and he was just doing the solos. Then when the song would finish, he would be a drunk man again. He would start talking too long. Tommy Shannon had to come on, let's get on with it. Once he played the songs, though, he was amazing. And I don't know how musicians can have that level of chemicals in their bodies, but just turn it on. If I drink too much, I can't play.
No, drummers too. I mean, John Bonham, the last day he was alive, I don't know what he played like in a rehearsal, but I know if I drink a beer, if a sweaty gig, I can have 2 beers in the course of the gig. I won't do it.
2 beer limit. That's the limit. Yeah.
But normally anything after that, but drink, I wouldn't be able to play. I couldn't be balanced. I couldn't. I don't
amazing.
know. How about this? This is a great category. Top 10 piss artists. Artists that could play totally shit-faced.
Yeah, absolutely. It's.
Well, Mark will say Stevie Ray Vaughn.
Yeah. I would say Bonham. or Keith Moon.
I would say Bonham over Keith Moon, because Keith Moon was allowed to go off beat a little bit. It was okay.
He could do anything.
He's allowed to pass out on stage, and they call somebody up from the crowd to play.
That's right. Oh man!
But I'll tell you what. How
about whatever happened to that kid? How about whatever happened to that drummer that
somebody should follow it up. Oh, by the way, Lou, you're a Spotify guy. You and Mark are Spotify guys, so you can compile a Van Halen cover thing.
Yeah.
And put it up on Spotify. You can do that.
You can make a playlist.
Yeah. You can make a Van Halen cover playlist, and I think it would be pretty cool.
I'm sure it's probably been done. I'm sure it has.
Hey Lou,
how about that, man?
No, I'm gonna look that.
I'm gonna do it, and it's gonna be on the Music Relish Facebook page if anyone wants to hear it.
All right. Has anyone been to the Music Relish Facebook page?
I have.
We are racking up the ratings on YouTube, people.
I do not have Facebook, so
come on, Buck, get on Facebook again.
A couple of weeks ago, we were in Sugarloaf, New York, which is a little hippie village. It's actually all witches. They're witches and stuff,
My kind of town.
Yeah, and anyway, they have a pavilion up there, like a pavilion center. Blue Oyster Cult is playing up there.
When?
Oh, wait.
Did you see them?
I did not. She said, well, let's go. But I don't know about when the date is or the tickets or whatever, And
I'm on a Blue Oyster Cult fan page, and I have to tell you, it is the nicest. Everyone on this page, there's not one douchebag comment has not been made. I was on the band appreciation page. I quit after I complained to the administrators. about all this vitriol, and then it went political. I'm like, what the hell? Come on, stop. You know,
it's
the Blue
just about the
page,
music. Yeah.
Yeah. The BOC page, it is so cool. And everyone's so awesome. It's an older page, you know. But the reviews from their latest shows are very good. Their last album, Perry, I gotta say, I mean, they lost me in 1981, except for a few songs here and there. But the last record, I'm like, it's heavy. They sound really good. So it's a return to form for a band that really peaked in 81, you know, or started in.
I mean, for a band that's been around that long, you're going to lose track of them. Like I've lost track of Wilco, you know. Me too. There it is. Yeah. Cling your glass, Mark. There's the Wilco reference. I've lost track of them, you know. And that's just the way it is when bands have been around a long time.
Yeah.
Not everything is going to be fabulous. Not everything is going to be genius.
But when you're talking 50 years, that's pretty amazing, you know.
And then sometimes bands will put out albums you really like and you don't like it, so you kind of lose. Like back in the 90s, I fell out with REM. And what's that album I have? Adventures in Hi-Fi. I came out, I gave it no attention. I remember driving to work. I hear, they have a new song. I couldn't care less. Ebo the Letter. I turn on. Anthony buys me the vinyl, and I listen to it, and I'm like, this is a freaking great album.
It is.
Never give it the chance, you know. But can I say something? And I think I'm repeating myself, but Lou, you talked about music appreciation pages. I am sick and tired of, all right, so someone will put up Iron Maiden, Killers. They'll say, this is the best Iron Maiden album. How about you preface it with, in my opinion, this is the best. Or, this is my favorite Iron Maiden album. Right. I am so sick of people with their, you know, this is the best, and the album you like sucks. Can't we just that album moves me. I like it, so I like it. Don't put me down, you know.
Can we do it? Can we do it without contention?
It's always like, you know, some people say Michael Jordan was the best basketball player ever. He was one of the best of his time. Yeah. But there's always going to be other ones that come along that, you know,
and those that came before.
So just saying, like, you know, this is the best ever, it's just silly to say anything like that.
It's all contentious, you know, and it becomes the thing where, you know, like I said, I've misspoke about some things. We all have, you know, we make some corrections. But now someone could have responded to you, Perry, and said, you really need to get your facts straight, man, you know, about the Elvis Costello song. Where it's just like, I knew what you meant, you knew what you meant, but it was just, you know, a matter of words getting mixed up somewhere. I've done it too, you know, we've all corrected ourselves, the little Relish recap type thing, but it doesn't have to be contentious. It doesn't.
Hey guys, listen, I get critiqued every Monday or whenever the show posts by Tom the next day. So I have all my mistakes pointed out to me by Tom.
Wait, when are we going to start having guests?
Yeah.
We have some invitations out there.
Mark, did you shut your microphone off?
I was pouring my glass of wine. I didn't want everybody to hear it. I'm sorry.
I can almost hear it.
Yeah.
I almost hear it.
I just zipped my insulated bag closed. Yes, I keep a bottle of Yellowtail wine in an insulated bag. I am trash. I know.
Smart. No, you're a smart man. It has to be a certain temperature. I have some sad news to report. What's that? I've had this guitar strap. I bought it at Robbie's Music. It's just a brown with that nylon thing. It's a very simple guitar strap. I just happen to like it. I played it. That strap has been on guitars playing a lot of gigs. So last night I was playing my Gretsch, and I was standing up. I usually play sitting down. I was standing up, rolling about the place like a dervish. Anyway, the guitar falls, and I catch it. The strap severed. It looked like someone came by with a scissor and did this perfect across the strap cut, like a surgical cut. I'm like, how'd that happen? It's just weird. I didn't notice any stress when I put it back on. I didn't notice. That's weird. It looks like someone came by with a Ginsu knife and just and flicked the damn thing. I'm like, I like holding on. It's weird. I'm sentimental about things. I've had this thing for 27 years at least. It's in Robbie's Music, and if you're from New Jersey, it was an iconic place. Remember, Perry? We've all been there. Yeah. Oh, Mark, we ever at Robbie's, the big barn in Ramsey, up in Route 17, near my old high school, your old Don Bosco prep.
It's gone. But, we did everything that we could.
It's gone. You bought stuff there. You bought the Seagull that I paid you back for. The Seagull at the S6 was up there. I got my Simmons drum kit through Robbie's Music. I had one of those first plastic. Yeah. My elbows still hurt. But Neil Peart had one. So I wanted to get one.
Yeah.
And I did. Mine was red.
I got to say something here, and this is for Perry. I had to, Lou, you talk about a guitar strap. I had to buy my first guitar strap in like years. I didn't know what to do, so I went on Amazon, and I picked this out. It's made by Perry Leathers in Canada, a Perry Leathers guitar strap. Nice. So we know that you own a company. You're not telling us.
Perry Leathers. I understand. He makes chaps to order too, I understand.
Assless chaps.
Is there any other kind? I've never seen a pair of chaps with an ass in them.
Hey, Perry.
It's its own purpose.
Perry, when you're feeling down and your resistance is low, light another cigarette and let yourself go.
What the hell was that?
You can hear me.
Oh, come on. What song was I doing? I was doing Play the Game. Come on.
I don't know what that was, man.
Opening up. That's going to be the next album I'm going to order you guys to listen to, but I'm not telling you, so forget it.
I don't like that word.
I didn't hear it.
I don't like that word you just used, pal.
Hey, I just watched Roger Waters' The Wall, so I'm all into this ordering people, you know.
When are you going to go see him play? You're taking the family, right?
I got 2 big concerts coming up. This Friday, I'm seeing Dead & Company at Citi Field. Kind of freaking out because Citi Field is an enclosed parking lot. Last year, I went with my son-in-law. I'm going with him again. And it fills up, like you have to drive around, but we're going to have a good time.
We're City. For those of us in
stadium.
Yeah, it's a new stadium for the Mets. So
named after that famous. It was named after that famous Cuban revolutionary, Shea Stadium.
Yeah, there you go, Che Guevara. Yeah, there you go.
That was a Ruddles reference.
Yeah. But the Roger Waters show is going to be, I think it's August 30th. I'm not sure. I have it, but it's going to be like, first of all, he's 80. It's going to be the last time he plays.
Wow.
Wait, Roger Waters is 80?
Yeah. He had to put this tour off for 2 years because of the lockdown. I had tickets to the original. I've got great seats. And when I say great seats, I'm not close to him. You don't want to be close to him. You want to be back. So I've got the first row in an upper tier because he's in the middle of the arena, in the round, and the lasers. That's what you want to see. I'm taking my son, my daughter, and my son-in-law. And I warned them. I said, you guys, you know, expect me to just be sitting there like this. I'm going to be soaking it all up, you know. This is it. This is the last time I'll see Roger Waters live. So it's going to be great. That's coming up. Yeah, that's in August. And that's at Madison Square Garden. That's a lot easier to get to. The Citi Field thing is freaking me out. It's like going to Queens is tough.
Yeah, it is. It is. I've seen many a baseball game at Shea Stadium.
Yeah,
named after the famous Cuban revolutionary Shea Stadium. But
I'll tell you something.
No, is Roger Waters? Is he using any other singers? Is it him? You know, back. I mean, it's rather.
Right. So what he does, he generally does. He does the solo stuff and he sings. Then he's always got a singer that can handle David Gilmour's parts. And he's got a bunch of guys in back of him, so he's got different. You know, he has no shortage of musicians. When he did the Wall tour about 10 years ago, I remember he toured with that. He had G.E. Smith on guitar. He had a great band. And that show was great because I saw it in Yankee Stadium, and the whole outfield was the Wall. It was just amazing. Huh. But the guy can get any musician he wants. So yeah, there's G.E. Smith playing. I'm like, I know that face. I know that
G.E.
face.
Smith of the SNL band and Hall & Oates and all that.
Hall & Oates, yeah. And he's got a core group of guys. He's got Dave Kilminster on guitar, who is such an underrated guitarist. Look him up on Facebook. And he's got Graham Broad on drums, who is one of those scary good English drummer. Like great, and you're like, he's great. Well, he's English. And then he's got a guy named John Caron, who has played with Pink Floyd and Roger Waters. So he played for both warring camps. He's great. He's just great. That's his core band, and they're just perfect, spot on. Nothing. Never hear a mistake in that band.
And G.E. Smith stepped in for that
Wall tour.
David Bowie video, Fashion, right? He stepped in to shoot the video. Even though he didn't plan a record, he shot the video because
really
Robert Fripp wouldn't, come
in the video.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
He was married to Gilda Radner too. G. Smith at one point.
Really?
Yeah. When she passed away, Steve Martin was hosting, and he'd just gotten word before he went on that she passed away. So when he did his introduction, he was visibly upset. But G. Smith wore a black armband during the whole show.
Really?
Yeah, just a little tribute to a very funny lady.
He got shafted from SNL because they kept telling him stop mugging the camera, and he wouldn't stop. So I heard they fired him.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, they were like he was
a ham bone, huh?
He was I thought, you know, like you don't pay much attention to the band, but when he ran that band, it was great. When they went to commercial, he was playing good stuff.
Well, he said all the, you know, like when Valerie Bertinelli was the host, you know, Eddie Van Halen was there, and he went right to the music room with G.E. Smith and the band was hanging out. That's where he felt comfortable.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah,
exactly. I bet you Eddie was he was probably a cool guy when you met him. I don't think.
Well, apparently,
I don't think he was a pretentious
he came
guy.
out for dress rehearsal and played, and G.E. Smith said, "Boy, he kicked it, man. He kicked it." Yeah. And then he came out for the live show, and he made a couple of mistakes, but you know, it was Eddie Van Halen. You know,
yeah.
It would have been cool to see whatever he did, or maybe he did. I don't know. Outside of this, you know, rock pop Van Halen thing that he was in, because you know he was a musician of scope, but Van Halen there was a kind of silliness to them in a way, where they didn't take themselves too seriously. But you know, he was obviously a groundbreaking, influential guitar player. But I wonder if it would have been possible for
money.
What's that?
How about him not taking any money for that Michael Jackson song
for Beat It? Yeah.
Right? He did it as a favor,
and he's like, you know, all right, he could have made a couple more $1 million, but I mean, I think he did quite well. You know, as far as all that money Van Halen made, you know, writing on, producing, and
I think Eddie's big demon was alcohol, because I read the Sammy Hagar autobiography, and you know, when Sammy first joined the band, they were pals, they were soul brothers, they were just like spiritual partners, you know, and things went sour, and then there was the chapter where he talks about they got Sammy back to do that one tour, and he said Eddie was just drinking and he was a nasty drunk, and that's a shame that, you know, when he drank he got bad, and I think that was a problem. And when he stopped drinking, he was okay, and that's you know, it's a problem with a lot of people. But I think he generally is a nice guy, and his brother too. I think they're good people, but they got really successful. There was a lot of strong egos in that band, David Lee Roth, so the two of them protected each other.
And it was L.A. too.
Yeah. So it was like the Van Halens against the world. And you know what? They loved each other as brothers. So I can't blame them. I felt when Eddie died, I was, you know, whether you like him or not, that was just, he was a good, and in the last few years of his life, he was really like trying to do stuff with his son. And he was, you know, he was just, he's a great guy. I think he was good. I think if you had met him, he'd be really shy.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to hear accolades. He just, you know, whatever. Yeah. But he wasn't an asshole.
There was some talk that David Lee Roth was talking to Alex, you know, about doing some sort of tribute.
Yeah.
Michael Anthony was involved in it too in the talks.
Yep. And they were talking to guitar players.
Fall apart.
They asked Joe Satriani, I believe, and you know, all right, so you're going to do a tribute to Van Halen, and as good as Joe Satriani is, and he's a great guitarist, people are going to be like, Joe Satriani's going to play? Like, whoever plays Eddie's parts, it's going to be like, what the hell is he doing? You know?
Now, you see, who
do you think should do it?
Steve Vai, maybe? Like, you know, maybe Joe Satriani would play, like Steve Vai might come and do a couple of, you know, those kind of things.
It would have to be like a few guitarists, definitely. It couldn't be one guy. Yeah.
So the famous gunslingers of the day, you know, the guys that were influenced by him, or maybe even rivals at one point, even though you never know if they met each other. I don't know. Were they hit? I mean, that was a weird. I remember that period of music, because that was, you know, the mid '80s, where, you know, it was about, you know, the guitar player was the gunslinger. Everything had to be constructed around, you know, when does the guitar solo come in? And that's all I care about. You know,
right? And how many hammer-ons can the lead guitar player from? Can CeCe DeVille do that? You know,
right? and you know,
he's
the two guys from
across the stage.
The two guys from Night Ranger having sword fights over who's going to do the thing.
And that's why I dropped out of playing in bands, because there was the late 80s, early 90s, and you got in a band and it was all competition. Like, your bandmates should be your group, but it was all like, what can you do? Don't overstep me. I'm like, you know what? I'm done with this. By the way, I got to say, Night Ranger, there were two guys. There was a guy with the tight curly hair, Brad Gillis.
And there's
another guy, that guy with the long blonde hair, Jeff Watson.
Jeff Watson, yeah.
All right. Look him up on Facebook. The guy has he totally, like, he still plays music, but he dropped out of the business. He wanted to live in nature. He's got a house in the mountains in Northern California, and he's just living his life, and he's happy, and I'm happy for him. Like, he's a really, like, it's so cool to see that I'm out of the business. I'm still going to play music, and I'm going to be funny when I want to be, but he feeds deer outside of his yard, in his yard. He's really in a good place now. I like to see musicians that went through that whole rise in popularity, but they don't get burned out. They end up, happy.
Well, they're also, their egos are secure where, do you want to be recognized in public all the time? If you like anonymity, if you're like a real person, you want your family to grow up kind of normal. Yeah. Like you said, do what he did. And, but that whole era, I remember, like, even on a local level where my old band played up at somewhere on Route 59 in Spring Valley. I forgot the name
Manhattan's.
Yeah, that's what it was, Manhattan's. I hated that.
Great club. We could do a show on that club, I bet.
Right, yeah, or a lot of North Jersey clubs. A lot of funny shit went on there.
Yeah.
But we went on before this band called August. And if you're out there, August Shock. They were from Florida. And we went on and we went over really well. And I didn't use my whole drum kit. I had this massive drum kit. They took my shit and rolled it down at this lower. It was like a loading dock thing because they were being spiteful. So when we finished our set, and they were just being assholes. Like before the gig, we couldn't get to we change our shirts kind of thing. And they were fighting over makeup, but that's okay. But after they got said, they trashed my drum kit, have my drum kit down. So they got scratched up. And I said, where's the spirit of the community? Where's, I'd loan them a microphone. I'd loan the guy a cymbal if it would help. But the fact that while we were playing, they threw my shit down an alleyway.
That's the 80s in a nutshell. And that's why I didn't want to get into the live scene. That's what I saw when I got into it. And, where are they now? How popular are they? Are they still putting albums out?
Yeah, who knows? Maybe.
Well, these people that were throwing you drums around, were they a cover band?
Yeah, no, they had some originals. If I recall, there was a mixture. I think we're talking like 80, 84, 80.
A lot of attitude.
It's before I met you. Oh yeah, it was attitude, but they were kind of thing where we were going over well. We were playing some covers, but we were fun. Father Sin was a fun band. These guys were very serious now. So we went over well, and afterwards we went after them because they were pulling away in their truck. We tried to chase them. Didn't happen.
Well, I remember seeing
that would have been a stupid scene anyway.
I remember seeing this documentary of Metallica, and they had a dartboard with Kip Winger's face on it and stuff. And who's the drummer? What's his name?
Winger? And Winger, who gives a shit?
He said he felt after, years later, he said he felt bad about it.
What's funny about that? Because Kip Winger, he was like a poster boy. So he was handsome. Yeah. He's also one of the best musicians out there. And their drummer in Winger
is he really?
Yeah, he is a great musician. And the drummer for Winger was Rod Morgenstein from the Dixie Dregs. So this band had crazy amounts of talent in it. So everybody was making fun of him, but they were really a good band. Kip Winger is still out there doing it. He's still touring. He's a working musician. I just saw a post from him. He's in Bulgaria tonight playing. Like, the guy just keeps working.
I think the fact that he was a pretty boy and he was a ballet dancer at one point.
Yeah.
He didn't give him heavy metal cred,
But he admitted it.
Beavis and Butthead did a pretty good hatchet job on them, if I recall correctly.
They made him into
didn't he have a Winger T-shirt? Didn't Beavis have a Winger T-shirt?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And you know what they did? They did
a Winger T-shirt, right?
And they did a song called "She's Only."
DC Metallica, and the nerd had a Winger T-shirt or something.
That's right. That's right.
And they do a song called "She's Only 17." That would not fly today,
We did a little segment months back on the songs that wouldn't fly today, right?
Yeah.
Did we allude to that, or did we actually do it? Because I got one to add. Benny Mardones, "Into the Night."
Oh, we talked about that. Oh, that's disturbing.
It sounds like he's turning into a werewolf at the end of it. But it's another one of those songs like, she was only 16, and how old were you when you sang this?
24.
24.
Oh, wow.
Going to jail.
That's bad. That's bad.
Yep.
Age of consent notwithstanding, that's still pretty bad. And Ringo had a number one hit with You're 16.
Oh, yeah.
And he was in his 30s. That's just
well, whoever wrote that,
So
that was in the 40s or early 50s, but even still, wasn't Richie Valens.
Well, let's go back to the 40s. Thank Heavens for Little Girls. That's a disturbing song, right? Jeez.
Without little girls, what would little boys do?
Yep.
How about this one?
Clear this, guys.
Listen, this just proves something. Music is is the devil. It's
Happy
evil.
birthday, sweet 16.
Just go to church and Perry's suspiciously quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm muting my microphone. In fact.
Well, on a high note, so we all have 2 albums to listen to this week. Well, I have 1. You guys got 2. So I'm going to be listening to Face to Face.
Yeah.
Turn of a Friendly Card by Alan Parsons. I suspect you're going to like the Kinks album more. I think Lou killed me at this one. But
yeah. So what, we're gonna listen to this and then
so next week we come back and we give our honest opinions on it.
Love it or hate it.
And then next week, Perry, you'll recommend, think of an album you want me and Lou to listen to, and then we'll even it out. Every week one of us will recommend an album. And that's the way, just like Perry, like I was telling you, I would never have listened to Wilco if you didn't say to me, you got to listen to Summer Teeth. And I listened to it, and I loved it. And I became a lifelong Wilco fan.
Well, I don't remember it so much that as you and I were working together over the summer, and the album came out, and I brought it with me. I brought it in the CD player while we were, stripping wax off the floor in the classrooms.
You demolished me in the laundromat. You went something about Wilco, and I go, "Who's Wilco?" And you went, "You never heard of Wilco?" And you just went for 20 minutes on Jeff Tweedy. And
you make me sound like a pompous ass.
No, but the thing is, listen. First of all, in the background on Sirius was Handsome Dick Manitoba. His show was on. We were listening to that. It's 90 degrees in the laundromat. But when you told me about Tweedy, I said, I got to listen to this guy. So Summer Teeth was the first album, and the second album was Being There. I heard, like how the hell did I miss this music? So
did you mean in chronological order, or was that the first ones you listened to?
Perry got me into Summer Teeth first, and then I heard it was Being There.
That was a record after Being There with Summer Teeth.
Yeah.
Chronology.
But the
interesting jump too from one country record to a Pro Tools recorded
Jay Bennett,
more modern.
Jay Bennett. But it's funny. I kind of like to this day. What hooked me up was Perry gives me Summer Teeth. I put it on the first song. I don't know the name of the song. Right? So I love that song.
I can't stand it.
But I heard Tweedy. It's like a throwaway song to him. He's really not fond of it. They threw it on at the last minute. He's like, whatever. I loved it.
Well, I thought Lou that it wasn't it because the record company didn't see a single and they wanted another They wanted another
that's right.
number. Right?
That's right. That they didn't. Yeah. That was recording that kind of. I guess the John Starrett and Ken Coomer felt alienated for however to deal with the production things with these Pro Tools. That was their first computer.
Or Wilco.
Yeah. Well, what are you going to do?
Hey, they're
you can say that about
part
the Beatles,
of American
too.
music. Yeah, one of the biggest parts of American music. So you can never talk about them too much.
Yeah.
Some of those records by that band were like some of the best mixed records I've ever heard. Their mixing is fantastic.
That's what I say from my mastering side. That's what got me into them, like listening to that and hearing Being There, that mix, and then the stuff they did with Billy Bragg. Those albums, if you listen to them on headphones, you feel like you're in that.
You and I were working at the school over the summer.
Yeah.
And it was Mermaid Avenue that we played that stuff to death.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Never got sick of it.
I heard a Bob Seeger cover of California Stars.
Really? I bet you
I heard that too.
It sounded great. Yeah, he's a great singer. I used to knock him a lot. I think when that whole 80s, like a rock, and against the wind, if I wouldn't say I got burned out, but some of the earlier stuff, but I heard California Stars. I mean, he's a great singer. Cool guy. He seemed like a cool dude. If you see the Eagles doc,
It's probably because it was all commercial radio, and you weren't listening to a lot of commercial radio.
No. In the early 80s and mid 80s, I veered left. I wanted.
Correct.
I got tired of being told this is what I'm supposed to listen to, and I guess I'm knowing you and as a musician, Perry, and Mark. Maybe not as much as a musician. We we're open minded, and we like stuff that might not be considered. Definitely wasn't the mainstream, which I don't have a problem with the mainstream, but what was the mainstream in the mid 80s to me was not as palatable as I'd like it to be, and being a sucker for a 2-minute song and always will. If you can bring it under 2 minutes, you're a genius.
Radio, freeform radio, down the dial, and
oh yeah. At that time, all the radio stations were being bought up by the corporations, and
I don't have time for PLJ and Bruce Juice in the morning or whatever it is.
That Tom Petty song or that album, The Last DJ, just basically rang the death bell on independent radio, mainstream commercial radio.
Just say
why we do all we do.
What got me into Bob Seger was somebody gave me their old albums, and I listened to some of his early albums, Smokin' OPs, the one album with Ramblin' Man, and they're heavy. He was heavy R&B, heavy Detroit R&B. Yeah, really good stuff. Yeah. Great music.
I like it better than, say, Mitch Ryder. I think if you look at that kind of, there's a certain kind of blue collar rock and roll too. He's wasn't highfalutin music. He was a bar band and. The guys like that work their bands well, like Ronnie Van Zant worked Lynyrd Skynyrd.
Yeah.
He rehearsed, that was his band. He rehearsed them. Bob Seger's the same way. That's, you're working.
Mm-hmm.
But, Night Moves, in retrospect, Night Moves is a good record.
It is.
Like I said, how many times have you heard it? Her strut, maybe not so much. But I do respect her, but I like the way she struts whenever it goes.
Well, I like the Fire Down Below, but that's just me,
Lawyer and the Cop, Fire Lake.
Oh yeah, well, come on, those the horizontal bop. We get you know what you're talking about, pal.
I forgot about that. That's pretty crass. Yeah.
The
horizontal bop.
Hey, it's a Detroit thing, Beautiful loop.
Yeah.
No, maybe that's just classic '70s cock rock.
Yeah,
maybe
cock rock. That hasn't come up in a while.
You know what? They Bob outcocked Kiss because Kiss didn't do anything like Fire Down Below, Horizontal Bop. Kiss didn't do that stuff.
Lick it up.
That was the 80s, though. That was the 80s.
Well, my question is lick what up? What spilled? Did Paul or Ace spill some ketchup on the floor?
Actually, you know what though?
Yogurt, Jergens hand lotion. What was actually saying? Can I mop it up? Why do I have to lick this up? Can I mop it up?
I gotta admit though, the other a while back I was listening to hair metal channel on Sirius. Yeah, I grew up in the '80s. Lick It Up came on. I was like, oh, turn it up. It was good. I liked it.
Lick it up.
Well, you guys want to sign off for the evening?
Looks like we're headed over an hour and a half again.
Yeah.
The Tonight Show.
I hope people stayed awake with us.
Well, I've got some homework. Mark demanded that I listen to some things, so I guess I'll...
And we talked about BOC.
Why not? Yeah.
So
and we always will. And we always will.
Yeah.
But only because, I would be remiss in not mentioning the fact that, when I was doing that little quiz of the album titles, I saw Sandy Pearlman produced The Clash. You got to bring that up. So,
here's the deal.
It's all part of the web, the interwoven thing.
You love Blue Oyster Cult.
I do.
And I love Steven Wilson, Porcupine Tree. It's so it moves us, so we mention them. It's no problem with that,
Yeah.
So, sorry, Tom. Yeah, we won't. We'll try not to,
Yeah, but and then there's still, like I said, if you put out an album after not making an album for almost 20 years, and critics say, this is a really good album. Again, it wasn't like a folk band can carry on folk music because it's not that demanding.
Yeah.
But to be a hard rock, almost heavy metal band, and you're well into your 70s, is a testament to these,
Well,
the
part of that,
Lou,
look into the label that they did it for, Frontiers Records. Look them up, read about them, because they've taken a lot of bands that have been going at it. Like Toto did I think one of their best albums of their career for Frontiers Records. They're an Italian label, and they get these bands and they just somehow they influence them or they threaten the violence. I don't know what they do, but
they understand them. I'm sure there's the mafia.
Yeah, but they what they do is they signing all these bands that were big in the 80s or 70s, and it's a good business plan. Sign them all. You're going to get enough good albums. The Toto album that they did for them was freaking phenomenal. So
I'm sure there's people in these companies that understand music and artists. The reason REM signed with Warner Brothers at the time was a label that was known were giving their artists freedom working with them on the level that they thought they should, as as opposed to just being numbers.
Yeah,
and that kind of like I said, I don't think Warner Brothers was going to drop REM after New Adventures in High Five came out, and that was the beginning of the commercial decline. They weren't going to drop them.
Guys hanging around in the studio while
exactly, Perry. Yeah. They already made their bones. They didn't have to prove a damn thing.
Yep.
But like I said, and they were always like we forget too, like internationally. Your album may tank in America, but in Europe, and the rest of the world is pretty big out there. America's not flat.
And European audiences tend to listen to an album based on the album, not on the band. Like sometimes in this country, it's like, oh, their ship has passed, so I'm not going to listen to it. Europe tends to like appreciate every album for what it is.
Yeah.
And that's right. New Adventures was huge in Germany for a reason. Really? They just want to hear good music.
Like Golden Earring are huge all over Europe.
Yeah.
They had two songs here that anybody really knows.
And I saw both two longer songs too. They were not short 3-minute singles. Those are longer songs.
I saw Toto at BB King's. They could barely fit on stage with their huge band, right? And that same tour, they put out a DVD that was recorded in Germany, in which they had a 25,000 seat arena filled. It's amazing, like how some bands here, it's cult status, and then Europe. Yeah. I appreciate the European audiences. Slade, yeah.
They're huge in the UK. Huge, hit after hit after hit.
Even when the band was no longer the band in the 80s and into the early 90s, before Rick Danko died, like he would tour like Amsterdam, Sweden with a Jonas Feldstadt or some other like Eric Anderson. There was like a trio they did. They would do these club gigs, but I'm sure they made a shit ton of money. But the fact that you can go to Europe, which who wouldn't want to go to Europe anyway, or Canada because they're so much more civilized. But
the thing is,
the fact America's forgotten about you, but you go over and some guy in Sweden wants to hear you play, makes no difference or whatever.
Yeah. So Steve Lukather, guitar player for Toto, he's playing BB King's now. Everyone there loved him. They're screaming for him. He's liking it. But then, keep blaming him. He goes to Germany or he goes to France and he's selling out an arena. He's seeing 20-something thousand people screaming for him. Yeah, that's great. I'm happy for him.
Look at Jim O'Rourke. He's huge in Japan.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
He lives there.
That's right. Yeah, he lives there.
They love surf music in Japan. They love surf. They love Elvis in Japan. They love all that stuff.
Yeah.
Edenville was almost number one in Japan at one point.
Really?
Yeah. Edenville's first gig was at that's the band, folks, that I was in. A lot of most of those songs were co-written with Perry and myself, but it was a 3-piece band. And our first gig was at Hoboken, New Jersey, at a club called Love Sexy. So when we first started playing, it was kind of like there wasn't a whole lot of people that were going over well. I'm not kidding you. I went to fix something on my amp. I turned around and it was like 10 Japanese people in front. And we started playing, and I have pictures of it. They started dancing kung fu fighting choreography, throwing kicks at each other's heads. And we're just playing. It was kind of like simple American pop, but there's pictures of me. I'm laughing my ass off because I can't believe it. Like this. The picture's stark. It looks like one guy's going to kick the guy in the face. But it was that thing where American rock and roll is sometimes more popular than in its own country. Stray Cats had to go to England to make it. Ramones too.
It's a shame you didn't make it to Japan.
Yeah. Who had the song called "Big in Japan"? Was that John Hyatt?
Tom Waits.
Tom Waits. That's right. Big in Japan. Yeah.
Big in Japan.
Yeah. Or what was it? The movie Reality Bites or something? Citizen Dick, the band. We're number one in Belgium. We're big in Belgium, man.
That's no Singles. One of my favorite movies. Okay. Great movie. Great.
We're big in Belgium, man.
We also had a song called "Chocolate Jesus."
Yeah.
We had a song called "Chocolate Milkshake," Barry.
Yes, that's right. A country song.
Cowpunk.
Never came to fruition.
That's never been recorded properly, only in rehearsal.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Maybe we'll do that. And Mr. Smith, when Mr. Smith goes to Swananoa, he can
Swananoa.
Play bass on it or something.
Yeah, there you go.
Guitar, anything, yeah.
But don't say the song title. Someone will steal it. Don't say the song title.
Right.
I mean, I got a song called Chocolate Wine.
It's copyright.
Skyline theme, if that's okay with you.
It's awesome.
Yeah. We're heading out.
And I just re-record my solos. They sound horrible.
No, they don't. Stop it.
Yeah, they do.
Punch them in. That's all.
If you want to reach us, we are Music Relish Podcast at gmail.com.
Yes.
We're also on Facebook. Search for Music Relish Podcast.
And YouTube. Music Relish Podcast. We're big in Belgium.
Big in the Bahamas.
Big in Liechtenstein.
Yeah, we're pushing 2 hours. We're pushing an hour and 54 minutes.
Little sports in here.
Well, I'd like to thank my technical producer, Corey Delinsky. Happens to be my nephew, by the way.
Good man. Good man. WNBC.
A priest, a rabbi, and a nun walk into a bar.
Don't go there. We all came down to Montreux.